Chapter 18. Remy stared at the shrub. Comprehension of what Boyer said was slowly seeping in like heated tar, coating his limited memories. "You're full of shit," Remy shouted, though lacking conviction. He didn't remember. But he wouldn't slaughter his men. He'd never. But with the drugs?
"You'll remember sooner or later,"
Boyer said, gasping. Remy squeezed the trigger but held off. It'd only prove what Boyer had said, that Remy was a killer. A force rammed Remy from the side. He skidded, the soles of his boots biting into the rocky soil as he held onto the attacker. David. Remy, at first thankful David was alive and moving, looked down at his hands, bloody from David's shirt. Before Remy could register what was happening, David struck out. Remy sidestepped the swing just in time. Again and again David came at him, and each time David grew weaker and weaker as red ran down his arm. A flash of memory caught Remy off guard. It was him fighting with David. The rage that had burned through his body took over his mind. All he had wanted to do was kill the man in front of him. But it was David. He had wanted to kill David. At the time, David had blocked, never striking back. He took Remy's relentless abuse. Christ. This had happened before. It was him. He was a murderer. Guilt, shame, and sorrow swallowed him just as David took another swing. Remy fell from the blow, tumbling to the ground. The bush rustled, gaining David's attention. "David," Remy called, wanting David to stay away from Boyer, who wouldn't hesitate to shoot a deadly bullet at point-blank range. But his calls were useless. David was already on the move. "David!" Remy took off after him. Boyer screamed as David rounded on him, dragging him from his hiding spot. Both men were covered in crimson. Boyer's injuries were worse than Remy had anticipated. Not only was he bleeding from deep gashes in his head and both legs, but his right arm was dislocated, making him a left-handed shooter. No wonder he had missed before.
"Help!"
he screamed as David continued to drag him. Remy was reluctant to help Boyer, but he also didn't want David's conscience as murky as Remy's was now. If only someone could have stopped Remy. Remy pressed his lips together. Bang! A bullet ripped through David's other shoulder. At first, David didn't seem to notice it, but then he fell, trapping Boyer. Boyer's breath grew labored, almost agonizingly so. He must have broken ribs as well. Remy kicked the gun from his hand and pulled David off. Boyer lay flat, unable to move. Stripping off his shirt, Remy tied David's fresh wound. God, there was blood everywhere. He bent down and picked David up, groaning from David's muscular weight. Christ, with all the blood loss, he should be a little lighter.
"Help!"
Boyer wheezed. Remy ignored him. Boyer wouldn't be able to go far, and Remy had to deal with David first.
"Brock!"
Boyer pleaded. "I'll be back for you," he snapped.
"Please, the gun. Let me die."
Remy didn't bother answering. He was already on his way back to the lab, hurrying as much as he could with the added weight. Behind him, he heard Boyer's cries, and then a shot. Silence. Remy didn't turn to look. There was no point. The coward had taken his own life instead of facing the consequences of his actions. Remy will have to answer for his own actions, the death of soldiers by his own hand. Ava would hate him. He wouldn't blame her. He hated himself.
While not on bandaged French, Ava's thoughts were on Remy and David. She only blinked up when French groaned.
"You'll thank me later. The wrap is secure so you don't move as much."
"You'll excuse me if I don't thank you now."
French muttered, his face so pale Ava could see thin blue veins. Remy stepped through the open door with David in his arms. "Oh, you're bleeding!" Ava scanned Remy's shirtless chest, trying to locate his injury. What she saw wasn't new wounds, but so many old ones. Ones that weren't there the last time she saw him shirtless. Violent, jagged scars spread up and down his chest, torso, and back. They were everywhere. How much pain had he been in? She wanted to cry. She wanted to kiss each gruesome scar away.
"It's David's blood,"
Remy said, hurrying to the table to lie David down.
"Boyer shot him. Who the hell shot him the first time?"
Natan flashed a nervous glance at Ava before looking down at David.
"We need to stop the bleeding. but it looks like he lost too much.
He pressed a cloth hard against David's open wound.
There are needles and tubes here.
Remy said, rummaging through drawers.
Do a transfusion.
I don't know what blood type he is.
We're the same.
Natan looked as if he was going to argue, but probably realized it wasn't worth the effort.
Let me clean and bandage the wounds first. I can't make any promises.
Ava studied Remy as he moved about the room, not acknowledging Natan's response. She had a suspicion that he didn't care what Natan's answer was. He'd probably do it without Natan's help if he had to.
Where's Boyer?
French asked, clutching his side.
Dead.
Remy answered. You killed him? Ava asked, wanting to take back her words, when Remy's hard stare pinned her. His eyes were haunted. Did he feel guilty? He probably did it in self-defense. Remy wouldn't have done it otherwise.
He shot himself. You can find his body just north of the helicopter.
Remy said to Natan. He turned his attention to David.
As soon as David's stable, I'm taking him out of here.
We all have to get out of here.
French said.
Unless we want to answer for this.
He waved a limp hand at the lab.
I'll deal with this later. As soon as Natan is finished, I want you all out of here. We don't know if Boyer had friends. It's not safe here.
He worked solo.
He had buyers and too many enemies. I don't want to take the chance of us getting blindsided. You guys go, and I'll get David out of here as soon as I can.
I'm staying, Ava said.
Your leg is broken. You have to get it set properly. Natan and French can help you.
Ava wrinkled her nose. I can take care of myself. I'm staying.
You're going.
Staying.
Going.
I'm staying. French cleared his throat, hardly gaining attention from the pair.
Ava, it's not like you won't see Remy again. You won't be of any help in the condition you're in. You'll jeopardize both him and David if you stay behind. Come with me, and we'll keep each other company at the doctor's office.
Ava crossed her arms in sulky defiance, knowing he was right. But why was Remy glaring at French? Isn't her going what he wanted? Remy sat heavily onto a chair next to David. He turned his arm over for Natan to access.
Do it now.
Natan finished dressing David's wounds.
This might actually work in David's favor. There'll be fewer drugs in his system. I'll have to try this on my cousin. I just hope it's not too late. We've left him for far too long.
Then go now. I can do this on my own.
A few extra minutes won't change my cousin's fate. But I am anxious to get back.
Natan said, pressing a needle to Remy's vein. What will you do now that Boyer is dead? Ava asked Natan.
Help my cousin.
Natan answered with a shrug.
Then finally go home. I wanted to see Venom brought to justice.
We all did,
It was my fault.
Remy said, focusing on the blood as it moved from his body to David's.
None of this would have happened if I had saved Tommy.
Tom was a thief.
French argued.
No one could have prevented his death. By the time you found out what had happened, he was already dead.
Ava studied Remy. His typically well-hidden emotions weren't so hidden now. Must he always shoulder everyone's burdens? Tom was a product of Boyer, she said. He tried to prove himself so often that I think he forgot what he was trying to prove. This begins and ends with Boyer. You did nothing wrong. Remy's face set in stony determination, shutting everyone out. Ava silently cursed. Boyer had gotten into his head. It was the only explanation. Will you be able to handle David on your own if this doesn't work? Ava asked.
He took care of me when I needed it. I will do the same, no matter what it takes.
Ava kept silent, knowing this was the end of the conversation. Remy wouldn't budge, and she really did need a proper setting and cast. She wasn't a superhero, not by a long shot, and her thread of vanity extended to her nicely shaped legs. She'd like them to stay that way. But still... Ava vowed to return if Remy didn't follow within a few days. She wouldn't give him up. Not now. And not without a fight. Preferably without. She already felt every single bruise and break in her current state. She didn't need more, but she'd be damned if she was going to allow him to shoulder every burden.
2 weeks later, Remy could still remember the exact details as Ava was carried out of the lab, French close behind. She had looked back at Remy, but only briefly. French had said something, turning her soft brown eyes to him. They will be good together. They'll have a future, something Remy didn't have. Standing, Remy stretched and walked over to David. He was lying on a mat in a shallow cave. His pulse was still rapid and his eyes were closed. "How are you feeling?" Remy asked. Gibberish dribbled from David's lips. Remy wondered how long this would go on. David had to get better soon. But the fact of the matter was that David was barely eating or drinking. Remy had to force liquids down David's throat just so he'd stay hydrated. Not a pleasant task, Remy thought as he ran a hand over his sore jaw. Remy had thought of seeking medical attention for David, but if they couldn't save any of Boyer's other victims, he doubted they'd be able to heal David. Time, however, might be exactly what he needed. It had worked for Remy, at least the parts he remembered, which wasn't much. As the days drifted from one to the next, a few more memory fragments had returned, but there were still giant holes. "We have to get you back home to Maya," Remy said, talking just to hear something other than babbling or silence or relentless memories. He used to like silence, but that was when he had so many demanding people around yapping at him. He missed them now. He missed David. And Ava too. He missed them all even more now that he knew he'd never see them again. Not after he turned himself in. It was the right thing to do, especially for the families of his victims. Remy's stomach lurched. Victims. He had victims. Just like venom,